What is going on, guys? MMA Island team, we got the fight picks, and we are back with UFC Santos versus Teixeira, a fight that we should have seen a long time ago and probably would have been the number one contender fight if it happened when it was supposed to happen, but both people test positive for COVID, but it's not the fight we're talking about. We're talking about Trevin Giles taking on Bevon Lewis. Man, a lot of things to mention about this one. I'll start it off talking about Trevin Giles. I think a lot of people were hating on me for my pick against Trevin Giles, Kevin Holland. And something tells me from what I've seen out of Kevin Holland recently, I'd probably pick Kevin Holland if that fight were to be. But
Yes.
I don't think it will be. And then, man, talking about Lewis, actually, first we'll talk about Giles, because Giles was supposed to face Kevin Holland, as most people know. And then I'm looking at my TV thinking I'm about to see them walk out, and all of a sudden, Trevin Giles has fainted, and that fight is off. And I'm like, what? So
That was a card that was already cursed by a bunch of injuries and COVID too.
exactly. So, and I'm typically used to getting notifications from my phone that tell me when stuff happens, and I see it on my TV, and I'm like,
Follow
what?
Headline Island.
Hey, there you go. So yeah, talking about this one, the last time we actually saw Trevin Giles was back on the UFC 247 card, where he fought James Krause
And lost.
and beat James
And lost.
Krause.
No.
So yeah, no, it was a really, really close fight with James Krause. It was a really weird scenario. I think it was 24 hours notice, 48 hours
Yep.
notice.
24 hours notice.
So James
I'll
Krause
get into it when I go.
and put some very, very he put on a really good performance against Trevin Giles. And looking at Trevin Giles before that, getting submitted by Zach Cummings and Gerald Mearshart, two guys who are pretty good on the ground.
Very good.
Very good on the ground. And then before that, in the UFC, 2 KO wins. So yeah, we'll switch it over to Bevon Lewis. We're talking about him. Last time we saw him against Daquan Townsend, decision win against Daquan Townsend. No longer in the UFC. I think they should have gave him one more shot. They should have gave him one more shot. What is it? Dusko Todorovic. Yeah, I think that dude's the real deal. So I don't know why they should have gave him one more shot.
Dude, he's been getting one more. What does he lose? Like 4 or 5 straight? He's got enough shots.
Somewhere like that. But and then the other thing to mention is that we saw Bevon Lewis, his 2 losses in his MMA career are in his last 3 unanimous decision loss to Darren Stewart and a KO loss to who we just saw recently, Uriah Hall. Okay, let's talk about this fight. So the first thing I want to mention is talking about Trevin Giles. Trevin Giles getting his only 2 losses come via submission. Looking at Bevon Lewis, doesn't have a submission on his record. And albeit it's only in 9 fights, we've seen crazier submission happens. Shout out JDR, shout out Darren Stewart. Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm gonna go Trevin Giles on this one. I don't think that that Bevon Lewis is really going to bring any sort of striking game that's going to shock Trevin Giles. Trevin Giles is a pretty technical striker for the most part. I think for the most part, when this fight is very far in my memory for multiple reasons. But James Krause, Trevin Giles, when James Krause was arguably winning the fight, wasn't it mostly on the ground for the most part?
Yes, absolutely.
So, and I don't see Bevon Lewis being able to do that. Gerald Mearshart and Zach Cummings are 2 guys who are very, very good on the ground. And those 3 fights that I guess you could say he lost all 3, he kind of got dominated on the ground for the most part. So Bevon Lewis coming in here looking to strike with him, hasn't attempted to take down in his UFC career. And even in the Dana White Contender Series hasn't attempted to take down. Going out there and striking with him when you're getting Trevin Giles, who's got 63% striking defense, 56% striking accuracy against 45% striking accuracy from Lewis, 57% striking defense. I don't know, man. Trevin Giles doesn't get hit very often, and I think that looking at the takedowns, not really much going to be coming from Bevon Lewis from the takedown and ground games department. And honestly, I think Trevin Giles might even have an advantage on the ground if he does try to take him down. So I got to go with Trevin Giles on this one. I don't think that Bevon Lewis is really going to be able to use the reach advantage, the height advantage, because if I see that being a problem, again, I see Trevin Giles being able to take it to the ground if he needs to. So I'm going with Trevin Giles on this one. Not the craziest amount of confidence, just because Bevon Lewis does have some power, and I could definitely see him knocking him out. Especially, we don't really know too much about the health problems with Trevin Giles, and I'm not going to get into it because I'm not a doctor. I have no idea, but hey, maybe it's something he should be holding back from fighting because of, I don't know. So who knows, man? I'm going with Trevin Giles in this one. I think he'll be able to kind of dominate the fight where he needs to, and I think he'll be able to stand with him and strike with him. Hey, you might even be able to knock him out, but and I also think that Bevon Lewis will be able to, or not Bevon Lewis, just Trevin Giles will also be able to take it to the ground, as I mentioned, if he needs to. Pass it on to Zach.
Man, someone's going to have a bad night because here we go again. Another disagreement. Here we go. So first, I just want to start by talking about how Trevin Giles beating James Krause is an absolute farce and a disgrace to the sport because it's one of the most examples of one of the most corrupt judging decisions in MMA history. Because Joe Solis scored the fight 30-27 to Trevin Giles. If you give the first round of James Krause to Trevin Giles, you are on crack or you are incredibly biased. And there was a conflict of interest that was not reported because Joe Solis has actually himself trained with Trevin Giles and was somehow judging his fight. How does that work? How is that supposed to work? And does it surprise you at all that you give a round, that guy gives a round to his friend who was defending submissions from a guy off of his back? He should have
bring in 7 judges.
He should have lost to a welterweight coming off 24 hours notice. I'm not impressed with Trevin Giles in the slightest. Just from that performance and everything I've seen from him so far, I'm not impressed with him. Now, Bevon Lewis I'm not that impressed with Bevon Lewis either, to be fair, but I think that he possesses the advantages to win this fight. First of all, he likes to bully his opponents. He likes to get in their face, forward pressure, and be very physical. Now, his size for the middleweight division helps with that a lot, and it especially helps because Trevin Giles is one of the smaller middleweights on the roster. I believe he is only 6 foot tall. Bevon Lewis is 6'3", and I think Bevon Lewis has something like a 5 or 6 inch reach advantage. He is the much bigger man, and that plays into his game plan very well. He does well when he's able to force his opponents back. I think Trevin Giles doesn't pose enough of a threat to push to really counteract the pressure of Bevon Lewis. If this fight goes to the ground, I don't think it will. I don't think Trevin Giles is really going to be eager to take this fight to the ground.
What?
He's not. I don't know. I think he might be. He might be. But after getting embarrassed on the ground by a welterweight on 24 hours notice, who knows how high his confidence is.
Pretty good. James Krause is pretty good.
James Krause is pretty good, and James Krause should have beat Trevin Giles. He should have. Literally, if Joe Solis did not score round 1 to Trevin Giles, he would have won that fight. It's how it is. And Trevin Giles winning is one of the most corrupt things in UFC and MMA history. But anyways, I'm getting besides myself. I think that the striking of Bevon Lewis is actually better than Trevin Giles. He was able to hold his own with Uriah Hall until he got knocked out. Now, to be fair, he did get finished, but holding your own against Uriah Hall, who is electric on the feet when he wants to be. Again, when
he's one of the most gun-shy fighters.
Bevon Lewis was he was piecing up Uriah Hall. Let's not forget that. He landed 68 significant strikes to Uriah Hall's 39. That is something you want to see. Bevon Lewis, even in his losses, he has never been outstruck in his 5 UFC fights. Not once. And that gives me a lot of hope that the Extraordinary Gentleman, love the nickname. It's one of the better ones in MMA, I think, Bevon the Extraordinary Gentleman Lewis. It gives me hope that his volume and his forward pressure will be able to carry him over to get the win over Trevin Giles. This is in no way a high confidence pick at all. This is a very low confidence pick, but I'm going Bevon Lewis.
Yeah, gotta agree with you with the low confidence part. Definitely low confidence on this one. I actually have a lot of low confidence picks for this one. It's some pretty hot takes from, I think, both of us tonight. But we got a disagreement again on this one. And as you mentioned, one of us is going to be having a pretty bad night. But hey, make sure you guys are letting us know who you guys got in the comments. You got to break the tie, as I'd love to mention. Man, as we mentioned, Die Hard card. We got some pretty good fights coming up next. But we're talking about Trevin Giles, Bevon Lewis in this one. And we got a disagreement. Let us know who you guys got. Make sure you guys are liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and check out the other Fight Pick videos.